and welcome to another edition of the Chapters Creative Conspiracy. This is our host, Matthew Nanez, and we are out of the Christmas doldrums. Actually, I think this is the week where it's like the most doldrumy. I'm recording this on December 27th, and this episode, I'm talking with my partner, Amanda, again, and we're kind of going through this year as far as the world of freelancing has gone, and also what to look forward to next year in our careers. But yeah, this is, it's funny I say the doldrums of the holidays when it's the days between Christmas and New Year's are probably the most doldrumy as possible. So, yeah, I've been sleeping in. I've been making random Costco runs. I've been having Costco hot dogs at like 10 in the morning. You know, it's just that kind of week. It's fun. Whatever. But I'm just really excited talking about this episode because I feel like the future of career is definitely not going to look like what we've expected as we've grown up, depending on how old you are. Like having a full-time gig might not be the most like foolproof thing that we do in our careers. Maybe it's a mix of like freelancing and part-time work, and really the stigma of that, just like doing away with that. And we get into that in this conversation, and I'm just really excited to have someone like Amanda to bounce these ideas off of. And we're currently working on a project right now, wrapping up on a website, and I'm just really happy I got the chance to do that with her. She's just an amazing person, super smart, and I think that's going to show through this conversation if you have not heard us talk before. So before we get into that, I just want to promote the brand narrative workshop. If you are a brand or just a person looking to get out and really focus in on how you communicate your idea, or even if you just need to build your idea as far as a service or a business or something like that, or even like if it's an art idea, I love to be here to help you kind of find your narrative through line in that. So go ahead and go to chapterscreative.com and find out how you can work with me. It's a 3-hour meeting, workshop, I should say, because who wants a meeting? Who wants a meeting? Where we go through the hero's journey framework and help you build out how you're communicating your idea. But yeah, I hope to see you there. And without any further ado, here's a conversation with me and Amanda talking about just the future of work in freelancing. I hope you enjoy. So, I don't know, Amanda, I don't know if you ever, at the end of the year, wondered to yourself, what did I do this year? What am I doing next year?
It's funny that you say that. I've recently been trying to embrace a concept I call Done Enough December, where I've done enough in 2025. December is a freebie. And so Done Enough December is my new thing. I'm celebrating that. I'm like, look, I did so much. I've done enough. It's December.
That's done enough. You've been through enough. You're done.
Yeah, I'm done. I mean, I literally look at like what I did this year, and I did so much stuff, which is good. And December is a freebie. My goal was to clear out my schedule for December, which is, I'm a busy person. I love to have a million things going on. But I actually think I kind of succeeded, and now I don't know what to do with myself. So that's a good thing and a bad thing at the same time. I'm like, oh my gosh. But I have a lot of writing to catch up on. It's like I do have things. But, in terms of what is your vibe going into December? Are you having a done enough December, or?
Well, I'm kind of in a space right now where, we have our client. I have another client that I spend half of my time on, and then I have another client. So I have like 3 projects I'm doing right now. But I'm just it feels like, it's weird because I feel like I have done a lot, but at the same time, like I feel like it's not enough. It's not enough, Amanda.
I mean, here's how you can tell if it's enough or not. If summarizing what you did in the year feels like an additional task, then you have done enough. Like, I sat down trying to think about, like, oh, I should do like a year-end wrap-up post for like my Instagram or whatever, and I was like, God, I don't want to do that. And then I realized, I'm like, wow, that means I've done enough. So I feel like if you mentally try and right now imagine having to write like a full year roundup LinkedIn post, I bet it would be daunting AF.
I think it's not so much like the different, like, I don't know why I'm using this metaphor, but the different tabs I have in my browser. It's not like I have like 200 things I did, like separate things I did. I did a shit ton of one. So for the first literally 7 months out of this year, I was just outbounding, like insane. It was insane what I was doing. Like, I have notebooks next to me full of like to-do lists and just like mark off what I've done as far as like how many people I've reached out to and things like that, and it's insane. So like I think like it's like what having oh my god, it's like having one tab open, but like it's like 5 or 6 gigs of RAM on that.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's like that one tab that's like, you know, you try and like close your laptop in an airport and it's like, so this is using all of your battery. Do you want to close this tab? And you're like, no. But you also did like, I mean, I think this is one of the benefits to being someone who doesn't necessarily have a single title that defines them. It's like, you also played a music festival this year. Like, that's crazy. You like there's all kinds of other stuff that I feel like you got those hats made this year.
I got this hat.
You discovered the concept of punk guilt, which is an important concept which drives many people that I know, including myself and some of my clients.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, okay. So let me ask this then. So like, you've done enough, and you say it's a free month. Do you feel like when you say free month that you're playing with house money?
No, I mean, free month is, so I'm shooting, this is also the other thing, it's like, this is why it's good to have a pipeline that is always going, because I have a wedding that I'm shooting in this month, which is going to take care of all, like, that's my expenses for the month, which is really nice. So I had that already booked, and then, like, I feel like I just don't need to do kind of that outbound stuff as much this month, partially because I know it won't be as successful. I don't know how you feel about that. It's just people kind of cool it down a lot of in the new year. I had 2 leads that I put into the new year because I was like, I know my bandwidth isn't great, but I also like, I just want to not be behind anymore. Like, I think that that's my thing, is like, I'm usually in a state of constantly chasing the next thing, constantly being a little bit behind in my own personal work. So I have a writing group that I'm part of that I have some writing work I need to finish, that I want to finish. And then I have a couple of projects to wrap. I have our project, our client. I have a merch client. I have 2 website clients, and I have like a small press client. So, and then the wedding, and that's it, which is really fun. And then I get to plan for my year in 2026.
Yeah, I think for me, like, I've for instance, since I ever had like got this like half-time client where it's basically just like a merch company, like doing their marketing.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've been kind of having this like massive like exhale where like me reaching out, me doing kind of like the busy work, me doing the content for my own Instagram, like it just fell off the fucking map. Like, and I was just like massive decompression. And like last night was the first night in a long time I actually like wanted to get on LinkedIn to talk to people and not even like do sales stuff, but just like
just
there
chill.
was there's like a lot of people that reached out to me and like connected with me, so like I'm just saying hi, you know. I'm not like wanting to be like to pitch them immediately or like at all, you know. Like if it naturally goes there, like one of the clients I have right now was literally that. Like we were talking, like I said, I had a post about I can't remember exactly what it was, but it was like hardcore punk adjacent post. You know, one of those I do. Sure. And she mentioned something about like the Bad Brains PMA. I'm like, okay, you're a badass. So we started talking. You know, ball. Yeah. And then she started talking to me about needing messaging for her, you know, for her company. Like, okay, cool. Like we had that natural conversation, and just like that felt so much better than like DMing
Oh, yeah.
100 people in a day, which I did for months.
Much respect to you. I'm so impressed that you did that. I mean, I was talking to my wife about this. Is like, I like the situation that I have right now, where I don't have to outbound very much at all. Have partners like you, where I can, like, you know, not that I'm like immediately going to be writing your coattails, but like you will think of, you know, when you need to bring a designer in for stuff. But also, like, when I first started out doing this, I was like, oh, I don't really mind having a ton of, and I hate the word big and little, but like, you know, some smaller jobs, right? Some smaller paying jobs, some jobs that are maybe more socially easy because they're with people I know, but maybe are lower paying because they're individuals, small businesses, just don't have a budget. I was like, it's easy to just string, you know, 6 or 7 of these along and just, you know, there's my expenses taken care of for the month, which is, I think, a very early freelancer way of thinking about it. It's also how I used to think about it when I was working full time, and this was a kind of an extra thing on the side. And now at the end of the year, I'm like, okay, I see why people chase that like one big client that will set them up financially to just do all of the other smaller crazy outbound work that they want to do, because it's hard. I mean, it's like, oh my god, I found out that freelancing is hard, but like it is like, I think it's crazy how quickly you can get fatigued with just building that pipeline constantly for yourself. So I commend you for surviving, but also I think it's normal to, like, I understand why most freelancers have a practice that is shaped the way that it's shaped, right? Which is that they usually have a couple of dedicated clients who are like larger businesses, enterprises, where they jump in and they're like their freelancer, and then they have some smaller passion clients, which I think is really fun. That's the mix I would ideally have. But yeah, I don't know how you feel about that, but that's like, I was like, oh yeah, duh. Had to learn this from First Concepts, but I did learn it.
Yeah, I think I think the thing is, for me, as far as like the one bigger client, like how quickly it could feel like a 9 to 5 anyway. You know, and you realize, I mean, I've got kids and you don't, but like I realize how much time I don't have when the days that I do have my kids. So like, for instance, on Wednesdays, that is when I go to Salt Lake to have like an in-person marketing meeting, go get content.
Yeah.
But it's a 40 minute drive each way. So it's almost 2 hours of the day, and that's gone. And then I pick the kids up and yada, 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 right?
Yeah.
And especially like having that person, and I'm not complaining, this is just like what it is. Like, then you have the person, you're like, whether it's the owner, CEO, or whatever, that you're constantly talking to, and it feels like a boss situation. You're like, oh, this feels like a 9 to 5 already. I just don't have like any benefits. But like,
I see.
Yeah, but on the other hand, kind of what you're saying, it's like, well, in theory, if that's 20 hours a week, I have realistically like 12 to 16, you know, because I have like other hours to dedicate like to parenting and stuff like that, where I can go after like the smaller things, or like the one-offs, like the one-off like workshops or whatever. And so for me, like, the question of like, well, wouldn't it just be worth it get a 9 to 5 anyway? Like, pops in, like, for like totally transactional, not for a dream job. It's like,
no, but yeah, I mean, I
sense for
absolutely
a year to do, or 6 months just to like.
No, I mean, if the right thing came up, I would probably do that, quite honestly, because it's like, you know, I think it's hard, but also I think that if once you've done this, the cool thing is that you have it forever. You know, you can do it. You know, I think we talked about that as like the emotional trap of like, oh my gosh, you know, I'm at this 9 to 5 and this is the only way to do it, versus like, oh, I have this role that I'm a great fit for. It's a fun company. They take care of me, and now I can do this other stuff, but I know that I can support myself as a freelancer. I think that that's an incredible gift, honestly, to have.
I agree. Like, because I had that emotional trap. You know, we talked about this, about how for a long time I kind of glamorized the being at one company for, you know, a decade or whatever. And when you realize in 2025, or even back in 2018 when I got laid off for the first time, it's like, wait a second.
Yeah.
This isn't true. The story I told myself isn't true. But understanding, you know, whenever I do my taxes, and I'm like, oh, wait, like I actually earned X amount of money. However large or small it is by myself,
Yeah.
Or I mean, of course, there's different partners that you work with and things like that. But like, I was directly responsible for making whatever happen.
Yeah.
That is empowering, and it kind of like the leverage that a 9 to 5 can hold over you is greatly diminished.
Yeah, 100%.
And
Absolutely.
I think that's the powerful thing, and I think that's just how. Like, if I was a kid in college right now, like, is anyone teaching me that? Like, how to adjust your life to be that way?
Yeah.
And of course, it's different from career to career, you know.
I mean, I understand that, though. I wish that I had learned. Yeah, I think that that's something that is so hard to learn, especially if you're a young person in your 20s and you get your first real job. We've talked about that feeling of like, oh my God, I've got it. I've made it. It's all good. I'm going to hold on to this. I mean, it's also, I've been on Twitter more lately because I figured out how to use it, which is a stupid thing to say, but like emotionally I figured out how to use it. I don't know.
I think that's a good delineation for how,
you know what I mean?
Now, the emotion.
Like, I figured out how, well, because I really am like, sometimes I talk to people on Twitter and I'm like, oh, you're in this in terms of like, it is like inside your soul. And I deactivated Twitter for years, like from like 2021 until 2025 basically, and I just like stopped using it because it was like stressful to me, because of how people tend to, it's just like a very socially viperous and venomous kind of place. But I realized like you can kind of chill out on that stuff, like as long as you're not trying to win at Twitter is fun, it's fine. But then like some people really internalize like the idea that like everything that you see on there is a real reflection of the way that people talk and act and think. And I think that like one thing that you probably get from like LinkedIn is like everything that we post on social media has a style to it, right? It has a tone, it has an intention. And once I kind of decoded like, oh, here's the Twitter style of posting, it's like, okay, now this all makes much more sense. But I saw a post the other day that was talking about how like when you hit your 30s, you start to realize that all of the stuff that is like really tacky adages that you hear, like protect your energy and manifest what you want, and like all of that stuff that just sounds completely nonsensical, there is actually a kernel of real truth in it, and it doesn't make any sense until you're an adult because it sounds completely mystical. But like things like protecting your energy, believing that you deserve to be in the place that you are, or, this has been turned into like bullshit business philosophy, but like having a scarcity mindset, I do think that there's something to that where you're like, if you believe the thing that you hold on to the most is the thing that is the easiest to take from you, right? So I think like there is something about being Zen, but it's a privilege to be Zen, but it's also, I think, not as much of a privilege as some people think it is. And I think that that's what college students internalize, is like, well, I could never go and just do this by myself. It's like, yeah, you can. A lot of structures exist to prevent you from feeling that way, perhaps. So, yeah. I think that that's a very true thing. Is like, nobody teaches you that. You have to find it out on your own, I guess.
Yeah, the system has to kind of kick your ass a little bit, and you kind of have to like for me, I had to kind of find my own little cadre of people who recognize the system for what it was, and like, oh wait, I'm not alone in this, and then you kind of get empowered by all these other people. And now I've kind of come to a place where I can't remember if I have said this to you before. It's just like, you know what, if I have to do like 10 to 20 hours working at a Trader Joe's and then like fill in the rest, like I am so comfortable with that versus last year or 2 years ago being like, oh God, that is such a failure. Like, no, it's not a failure. It's just like you're set to quote unquote lose. You were set up to quote unquote lose. In this whole, I don't know, ecosystem. And so for me, like, as far as the freelancer type of idea, like for next year, I think now that I've kind of come to that place, and it seems like, and of course, like a lot of people like want to talk about like, ooh, AI, yada yada yada. Like, I think it does have like an effect on how like jobs are, or what people want from freelancers, things like that. But like, I just think that's the fact that I have spent the last X amount of years trying to form an opinion on how creative work or business or just like philosophy in life, like that's the stuff people want when they hire you. They want your point of view, of course, to do the work too, but like
Yeah.
You can train an AI to have a personality, but
yeah, I mean, the AI thing is so interesting. I could talk about this all day, but like, I think one thing that is becoming apparent is that there's a divide in what people understand in terms of like the companies, especially like companies that would maybe hire a freelancer, like larger companies. Like, I think college students are definitely using it and running their brains, yada, yada, yada. There's all of this fluff about it. But there's a point where like there were kind of two narratives about AI, which is that everyone's using it and rotting their brains and getting holes in their brains. And also it's a bubble that's going to burst. And I think both of those two things are true at once. But I think that what is happening in the middle there that people don't understand at like the enterprise level is that I think that they assume that a lot of jobs in companies are being completely cut by AI, but actually I'm not seeing that as much. I'm seeing headcount get reduced because the economy is bad, with AI being used as an excuse. But everybody I talk to, and even at my previous role, it's middle career professionals are being encouraged to use it. I think that that's something that people don't realize, is that like it's considered a professional development tool more than it's considered a replacement tool a lot of the time. And I think that that's going to have an impact on how freelancers present themselves, because I think if you go into a place and think about like, okay, it's me versus the robot, right? A lot of places are not in that mindset at all, which is really interesting. Like, I think that that's a kernel of wisdom that I would give to any freelancer who's especially young, because you should defend your work, you should defend your ability not to be replaced by a robot, all of that stuff. But I think a lot of companies that are the ones who are actually giving paychecks to freelancers, they aren't thinking about it at all like that. And in my experience, at least, I don't know if you've run into that, but like from the corporate standpoint, I think a lot of it is like, it's the same thing as buying Slack to them. They're just like, yeah, everybody should get trained on this and use it. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, we have enterprise GPT. And it's like, I think that's going to be a weird divide between the people who have worked 9 to 5s and the people who haven't. And I think that that's something that everyone should know about, is like, hey, there's a weird, this thing should definitely not replace you. We should be able to, do guild work and organize for our labor rights and stuff. But I think a lot of jobs that are getting cut right now are actually just like future headcount that wasn't ever going to get fulfilled anyways, because you over budgeted, because that's how corporate America works. And there's a bubble that's going to burst. The economy's in a shithole. But yeah, I don't know. I was talking to a friend about this the other day, so it's hot on my mind. But
yeah. Uh-oh.
I muted myself. Hi. Okay. Yeah, I was like, I literally touched the one button that's like the big red button. It's like, don't touch this. Yeah, I don't know. So I think that that's like one thing that I want to make sure that I do as a freelancer who's worked a 9 to 5 is pass some of that knowledge of like those inner corporate, brain things onto other people, because I think it's very hard to navigate. And I think that divide ideologically is just going to get wider and wider.
Yeah, like, and I've always considered myself like AI agnostic. Like, I've definitely have used it, but I think what I'm learning these days about that as well is that I think the temptation to, and I think this is like where a divide can happen, is when you're not interacting with it, you're just like running with it. Like, you're not. If you're just throwing in a prompt and just grabbing it and not thinking about it, you're fucked. Yeah. Like, you have to, like, you really, like, the temptation is there, especially if you're busy, especially if you're running short on time, especially if you're running short on energy. Like, it's so tempting to have someone else do your homework for you. Yeah. To
offload the cognitive labor. Yeah.
And there's so much cognitive energy being spent right now just being alive.
So true.
Yeah. But what I'm kind of like realizing right now is like, you know what? I need to really engage with it and call it out and work with it and really truly form an opinion, not to offload that labor, because that labor is important as a human. Yeah. To know what the fuck you're talking about, because that's the stuff.
Right.
Like because if what you're saying is true as far as like what employers are looking for as far as like a tool and things like that, you are hired for your brain. So,
100%. You're still hired for your brain.
Right. And so I think that's where it's either the people who don't know how to use it, or I guess, or don't want to use it, which is totally fine. Like, especially from an art point of view, like, yes, please, like, have that opinion. Like, I have not I've only created like one image in my life using AI.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Oh
yeah,
my
okay,
God.
that's enough. That's enough fun for me. But like, but as far as like it being like a real tool, like knowing how to engage with it from like a intellectually honest point of view, and also still bringing yourself to it and to your employer or partner or whatever else, like I think that's going to be the important part. Of course, like there's a bubble, but I still think it's going to exist. It's not like AI going away.
It's 100%. I mean, yeah, it's like saying that the .com bubble popped, but then everybody's still online. Yeah, right. Exactly. I mean, I think that's the thing is like, and I do worry about my younger peers who are trying to break into jobs and have this like it's not that I don't think that you shouldn't have a strong stance about yourself and your work, but I also think that that kind of presupposes that a lot of what happens at a day job is art anyways, and it's so not. Like, to me, the difference between like a stock photo and an AI generated stock photo, ideologically, many things. Functionally, not so much. And like I think that and if that grosses you out as a young creative person, then that's a good sign that maybe that's not for you anyways. But I do think like it just teases out some of these like stronger sympathies. But I think generally speaking, learn to talk the talk a little bit with it and just like have an opinion and figure out how to push back in a measured way. Like there are lots of ways to push back about AI use that don't involve me saying, hey, I think it's wrong to use this, because a person who's already paid for Enterprise GPT, who's paying you as a contractor, is not going to want to hear that. You know what I mean? Yeah. They're going to be like, you don't like the toy I bought you? But there are lots of ways to be like, hey, I tried this. It produced subpar work. I was able to do this in the same time better and originally. That's a very true thing. Or just, just don't mention it at all and just don't use it. And you'd be surprised when people are like, oh, so you put this into AI, what prompt you use? And be like, didn't use a prompt. I used to do that all the time at my last job. Is like I would come up with like 20 lines of copy and they'd be like, oh, what prompt did you use for this? And I'd be like, bro, ain't no prompt here. I don't use that thing.
Yeah. Prompted my brain.
I prompted my brain. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I think that's interesting. I don't know. Yeah. It is interesting in terms of... Go ahead, sorry.
No, I didn't have anything. You're good.
Yeah. I was going to say, in terms of that, you're mentioning something I want to talk about for a second, that having a boss feeling. That's also something I learned about... Like, I really learned this year getting into freelance that I'm, like, addicted to having a boss. And this is a weird way of saying this, but, like, I did not set ideal boundaries with my freelance clients in a way that like made it feel like I was working with them a lot of the time, like, and not like necessarily like all the time, but there were a few situations where I was like, oh, I'm putting myself in like the employee role and giving this person way too much power that they didn't even try and take. You know what I mean? I'm curious if you have had that experience as well.
Yeah, I think it's not so much like myself towards my quote unquote boss, but it was like how they were talking to me. But then, like, for instance, there was a moment where things got like slightly tense, but I pushed back in a way that I think if I was an employee, like I would be like in quote unquote trouble. But the thing is, I think this person is giving me money for me to have an opinion. The fact that I was able like to push back and be like, no, because I think X, Y, and Z, like nothing happened. It's not, he was like, fuck you, like I'm not paying you. Like the fact is, like, 4 months later, like I'm still doing like work for them, And,
absolutely.
So like sometimes I get scared about like I do have a hard time with authority in general. I have had a few bosses in my life who were amazing. And I didn't feel like, oh no, like kind of like the hit dog thing. It's like,
yes,
oh no, you're gonna hit me. Oh.
Yeah, totally.
Like I didn't have it with them, and then the vast majority of others, like I was just scared to even like walk into the office, like to talk to them or whatever else. And so for me, like that's why I think like having like the one-off workshops works so well for me, because it's like, okay, here, done, boom. Like
I love that.
We talk like, and I did too. So like I do think like moving forward, like I do want to do more of that work. Like I guess because that was a vast majority of my focus until I had this like part-time thing falling into my lap. But now I'm just kind of realizing like, yeah, I still think that should be like a focus. Like whether it's like the Unstuck workshop or brand narrative, but like if but not to have so much of my income be like the percentage of my income being tied up with part-time work where it feels more like a job, right?
Yeah, interesting.
So, so I think that's like moving forward. That's kind of like the energy, like of like next year, like needs to be, like less boss feeling, because like generally speaking, like it has to be like a truly like collaborative vibe for me to feel comfortable with it. And it feels okay right now. Where I'm at right now. So like it could be a lot. If it was worse, I would be done. I'd just be like, bye.
Again, that's the best feeling. It's just being able to peace out. Absolutely.
Yeah. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but like I'm addicted to having good bosses. The fact is that not a lot of them exist for me. I think that like it's more of just like it's a dynamic that I think gets set up early in your career. It's like that's the only way that you're used to working with somebody who's paying you to do work. Is like that's the kind of thing I had to kind of set up for myself. Is like be like, hey, even though this person is my client, I don't need to, immediately bend to their requests for different timelines. Or like, I had a client ask for a 6th revision on a PDF that I had done. And I was like, and it was like over Thanksgiving. And I was like, you know what? I'm just not going to reply to this email because it's okay. Like, what are they going to do? Kill me? You know what I mean? And so it's like, if it was really that important, they would have
caught it. Like, exactly. Like just get it out the freaking door. So it's stuff like that too, where it's like, I think, being able to have boundaries is important, and I think that I learned a lot, like in a very short period of time, because I realized I'd only been doing this since July, which is crazy to think about. It's like it's like half a year, but yeah, I don't know. I think that that's an interesting dynamic for sure. But there's also like I want to make sure I give myself the free time to have those really fun creative clients. I have some really cool stuff cooking in the new year for some collabs. So
yeah, and I think just like having that freedom to do, like I didn't get into like the whole like freelancer thing to feel like I do have a boss. Like it's kind of like having really the freedom and internalizing the freedom of like I can create my own world here.
Yeah, exactly, and just like really sitting in that 100%.
Really sitting in it, like embodying it. Like making sure I'm using my time to embody that. And especially when I feel like a lot of people are in a state of like, what the fuck right now? Like with the economy and career. Yeah. It's like, well, in a lot of ways, like I am ahead of a lot of my peers of having this kind of like enlightened mind, just like.
Yeah, totally. No, I know what you mean.
Yeah, and because a lot of people don't have like this bone in their body, like as far as like the freelancer world, like type of thing. They never will, and I'm like, well, like that's such an advantage for you and I, and a lot of people like us. And it's just like, well, let's just take some fucking ownership of it. And so I did need some time to unwind. I did need some time to decompress, but like I kind of feel like. I mean, I wish December could be a free month,
right?
Like in a way, but like Christmas isn't going to buy itself, but at the same time, it's like I think I'm ready to like get moving and just not worry about like. Of course, we've talked about AI and things like that, but not really worry about it and not really like.
So, I mean, somebody's going to need this stuff, And I also think, like, it's one of those things, like, the lights don't go off overnight. And I think that that's a big thing that people have to realize is, like, a lot of the impulses that we have. Because I also think this comes from, like, just growing up how I did and, like, having that middle class background where your parents probably grew up maybe in a lower class or situation than you did, and now they kind of live paycheck to paycheck, but they mostly figured it out. That was kind of my upbringing. And so just being in survival mode 100% of the time and having to snap out of that and be like, even if I'm technically doing that financially right now, whether or not you are, just having to mentally snap out of it and be like, I actually am okay. I got this. You know what I mean? It's so hard not to react to every little thing that happens in the world as if it's the crisis that's going to impact you. But I think having tangible things to look at and be like, I am doing this, I am doing this, I am doing this, that's really helpful for me.
Yeah. And of course there's things like that are really happening, you know, like I'm scared to go onto healthcare.gov and see what my premium's going to be for whatever I got to do, and that stuff is real, but at the same time it's like if I have to go a year without health insurance while the government sorts out its shit and I get to like have a free extra $500, $600. Like, okay. Like,
yeah.
I know that's kind of dire. Like,
no, I mean, well, I meant more like, I mean, that definitely is something to react to. I meant more like assuming that you know how everyone else is going to react in like a business landscape sense.
Right. Yeah. Like, and I think like for me, like I guess it kind of gives you a look into my point of view, because to me it's like it's all integrated, you know. Yeah. Like for me, you know, and I think, and also to like what you're saying from like a business sense of like, I just kind of what I see as well is that the world is still going, like the world is still turning. People are still spending money.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
So I guess like from a personal point of view, like that's what it is for me. But also from a professional point of view, it's like like you said, the lights aren't going to go off like right away. Like
I think that's the thing is like, you know, because I get into a headspace where if it feels bad for me, I assume that it feels bad for everyone, and oftentimes that's true. But it doesn't mean that there's not someone out there who will not work with you. You know what I mean? And I think that that's been something that I've had to learn is like. I think that's a classic logical fallacy of like turning your emotions into realities. Not that like, again, like the emotion of fear or scarcity isn't a real thing, but you can also project a lot of confidence and a lot of confidence in terms of like, yeah, I can do this for you. It's fine. Spend the money. It's a good investment. I think people can kind of smell the fear on you, I think, in the room a lot of the time. Yeah. And all the times when I've been like, you know, just reaching out to people because I feel like I need to cover a gap in my month versus just kind of being back and be like, yes, people will still want to work with me. That's a hard mentality to get into, but I think it's so crucial.
And I think like kind of going back to the whole LinkedIn of it all, when I was like reaching out to 100 people a month, like, so it's funny, like when I put in on my LinkedIn that I'm like a fractional marketing manager for this like screen printing company, right? I'm getting so many like, now I'm getting like, I'm like I have like the perfect title. Yeah. Someone look me up and try to add me and try to pitch me shit. The amount of people reaching out and wanting to connect with me with that, and I smell it on them.
Sure.
And so I think about myself. When I was doing the whole DMing 100 people thing, like, of course, like, it's only happened, maybe, like, out of, like, 200, 300 DMs, I had, like, 2 clients out of it, right?
Yeah.
But I just kind of think, it got me thinking about myself as far as, like, well, like, I can do outreach like that, but, like, it's coming from, like, what you're saying, like, the scarcity thing, right?
Yeah.
Whereas, like, coming from it from a place of, like, abundance and power. I know that's such
no, but isn't it like, so annoying that it works though? Like it literally does.
Like as far as like, these little kernels of truth in this shit. Right?
I know. It's like, oh my god, why does this work? I sound like I'm on Shark Tank, but it works.
Yeah, and so like me just like instead of like yeah, I'll talk to them, but if all they want to do is just pitch me stuff but not have a conversation, then I remove them. It's fine. Yeah. So now I'm like reaching out to people who like have connected with me, and if they don't talk with me, like I'm like, okay, like you're now not, am I?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, like, and the people who see what I do and they're interested, like, it'll come about and it's fine. Yeah. Like, it'll be okay. I'm more interested in the human aspect of things these days. So,
yeah. I mean, the human aspect is crazy because I also think, again, this is one of those things that, like, people have tried to turn this into like, you know, so many different business books, and like it's never a formula because you have to understand and feel it and embody it individually every time. But it's like, yeah, business is about emotions, not really about money. Is like, again, that's one of those stupid kernels of truth that it's like, oh, people buy things with their feelings, not their wallets. What? But then they actually do. If you make people feel a certain way, the money stops becoming part of the equation most of the time, and they will consider it an investment in how they are going to feel in the future. And that's a crazy thing. I can't believe that it works, but it works. And it's just like, it's so dumb to have to learn that, like, again, from first concepts every time, but it does work. That's definitely how you drum up freelance business, and it's hilarious. But yeah.
It's the kind of shit that would gross me out 15 years ago, but I'm like,
I know.
Well, it's a way of the world. Like, it's just, it is what it is, you know?
It is. I mean, I think that's the thing is, like, I think that one thing that I think about a lot is, like, maybe this is getting too deep, but I think a lot about how, because of how Americans tend to grow up. Like, if you grow up in the kind of American Protestant Catholic mush that is our kind of, like, you know, Christian context, there is a lot of turning sustained internal feelings into something that's real. Like, I think that like Catholic guilt, right? That is a feeling that you're supposed to have with you because there's an idea that it will pay off somewhere in the future, that it's the right way to feel. And I think that there's that feeling of punk guilt or sustained disgust, right, in the work that you're doing if you know that it doesn't necessarily align to all of your values. And people will keep that with them for a sustained period of time because they think that it's impacting the reality of what they work on. And it's not, right? Like, if you look at it, that's just a logical fallacy. There's nobody, I mean, to me at least, I'm an atheist, but, like, even if you believe that God is, like, watching, I don't think that God is caring about, like, whether you're working an office job or a freelance job. I don't think that, like, there's a lot of stuff that adds up there, but, like, you know, and obviously it's like, yeah, don't work at Raytheon. But, like, I think in terms of just, like, the wheeling and dealing, a lot of people get the ick from that. But you're going to be doing that anyways. So staying guilty about it is not going to serve you at all. As long as you know what your principles are and know what your actual lines in terms of I will not do this work are. Holding a feeling of guilt in your head is not productive. It's just a great way to torture yourself. So I think that that's something I think about a lot is, like, I always have to check myself is, like, is this feeling observable by anyone but me? And therefore, is it impacting the world at all? Or am I just torturing myself because I'm going to do this anyways? But I think that if I feel bad about it, it's going to help somehow. It's like, no, it's not, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Jiminy Cricket's really not on your shoulder. And I don't mean that as God, but I just like, there's like, we're bargaining every single day anyway. We're having these mini decisions throughout the day.
Yeah.
Like, am I going to buy Starbucks today?
Yeah.
Like, is this, and there's decisions that you have to make. It's like, well, why not have, when you're faced with the decision of whether or not to work with someone or the type of work, like, there's these mini decisions that, like, there's so many decision trees to go down. And like, once you kind of, like, remove, like, your social, for lack of a better word, like, upbringing, whether it's religious or subcultural, like, I mean, like, for instance, like Lockheed Martin is huge here because there's an Air Force base here. Like, so many defense companies are literally in my backyard, and I made a decision not to work for them. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
But me going out and DMing people because it feels gross, like, feels icky. Like, I mean, I say that I'm not going to really do that anymore, but at the same time, like, I made a decision to do what I did this past year to, like, DM like 500, 600 people. Mm-hmm. And could I do that again? Like, is it against my values to do that? Not necessarily. Exactly.
And I think that's the thing is, like, that icky feeling, like, if we think about ourselves as just monkeys, right? Like, there's that the purpose of that serves is when we're doing something that conflicts with our value system in some way. And it's like, you know, I think my philosophy is, like, if you're going to do it, then do it. If you're not, then don't. But don't do it and then feel guilty about it and assume that has a tangible impact on the world, right? It's like, you know, people who will, like personally, I don't like to cross picket lines. I'm not going to get Starbucks while they're on strike. You know, union strong. But there are some people who will be like, well, I got Starbucks, but I feel really guilty about it. And that's the same thing as not. It's like, no, that's not. It's two different behaviors. You know what I mean? You're either doing it or you're not. It doesn't matter how you feel about it. And I think that that's something that is hard for people to parse is, like, if you're committing to doing something, commit to it and don't don't like let those hangover feelings happen because the behavior has already been done. It's like the same, and and the flip side of that is like that's why it's so easy to make fun of people who do work for Raytheon and are like, hey, like, but I feel bad about it. It's like, well, no, just don't do it then. Just don't do it then. You know what I mean? Just it's easy not to work at Lockheed Martin. I promise. Just don't do that shit. And I think that's the thing is like figuring out when something is a signal from your brain that, hey, this is in total conflict with my values and I should stop, or when it's a signal from your brain that's like, I love to feel bad because I was raised Catholic. Let's keep it rocking. It's like, stop that shit. Cut it out.
Yeah. Rationalize it either way, however you want, but it's either done or done. Because you could easily, like,
yes.
It doesn't, like, this is the last point, then we should probably go, but, like,
yeah.
I could on the flip side, if I did get a job at Lockheed Martin, I could rationalize it and be like, well, some other person's going to be here and take all that money and use it for themselves, or I could be the person to take my salary, 1/10 of it, and give it to like food, not bonds.
It's like, yeah,
like,
it's like,
you know,
yeah, and it's like, and then you have to think about like, are those rationalizations valid or not? And I think that's one of those things is like we're in an environment right now where you can technically rationalize anything, and that's why I think it's important to have principles versus feelings about things. Like people are saying like a lot of like activism is like vibes based these days. It's like, well, if you have principles that are not tied to emotions, because in the moment it's easy to justify anything, and that's really hard. Is like not to be like don't trust your emotions, but like I do think that they're one of the most easily compromised things because we're monkeys and we love to have shiny things thrown at us, and like you can make somebody feel really, really good about working at Lockheed Martin, but it doesn't change the fact that it's not a good thing to do, at least by my value system. So it's like I think that's part of it is like just figure out what your lines are and then stick to them really aggressively. And that means if you go past the line and it feels like if you stay within your lines and it still feels funky, look at your principles again and be like, all right, but I'm really not like, I'm not violating any of my principles that I've agreed to hold myself to. So I know it's like, I'm going to keep doing this, even though there's this discomfort, versus if you step outside it and it feels bad, it's like, yeah, it's probably a sign that it feels bad. Or if it feels good, that's the scary thing is like, but I've violated my principles. I have to not do this anymore. So I think that's a very hard emotional game to play, but it's important.
And to bring it all back to square one, like that's just stuff. If you're going to freelance, you have to ask yourself over and over and
constantly. Over. Exactly. That's what I mean. Is like I think that's probably why it's on my mind so much. Is like every time you take a new client in, you're running that assessment versus taking a job, right? Where you do it once, you look into the company, you decide. But I think that a lot of it is like, just again, maybe it's a matter of, if you have a certain type of client that you don't want to work for, just never reach out to those people and it becomes a lot easier. And then, and be okay with doing the kind of uncomfortable, icky grunt work because you are going to do it anyways, even if it sucks, just don't make yourself miserable about it. Yeah.
Great way to end.
Yeah. Woo. Great way to end.
Yes. All right. So if people want to reach out to you, how do they do so?
So I'm on, I have my personal website, amandakillian.work. I think that's the best way. I got a very nice email. I did some editorial illustration work for a publication called Dirt a while ago, and one of the writers used the contact form on my Squarespace site to reach out to me. I thought that was so sweet. I was like, oh, it's so manual. I love it. An email. Feel free to send me a nice email, and all my socials and stuff are linked up there as well. But that is the place to do it. And I have all kinds of cool stuff cooking for 2026. Right now I'm selling silk scarves, which is a funny thing. If you guys like Bruce Springsteen, I did a limited run of 50. I do merch. Speaking of merch, every once in a while. So what about you?
You can find me on LinkedIn at Matthew Nanes, Nanes. That's probably my most active. Also, there's Chapters Creative on Instagram. I'll be probably a bit more active on that now that I've had like kind of my exhale. Also, if you want to work with both me and Amanda, we've got the Unstuck Reset, which is our 2-day strategic narrative reset for business owners who don't feel aligned with their brand or their marketing. You can work with us to get realigned because we are fucking smart. Know our shit.
All those principles that I just talked about, those things, that list of values, and we'll help you find those for your business. That's important.
And we can help you find your story and your principles and your marketing and all that. So go to chapterscreative.com/unstuckreset And or you can just go to chapterscreative.com in general. Cool. Well, thank you so much for listening. This has been Amanda Killian and Matthew Nanes, and thanks a lot. We'll see you later.
All right. Bye-bye.